Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the Frontline Changes Report. And again, another day of frontline changes. Again, everything is red, and the Russians have made significant progress again, but not as significant as the previous day, as the New York front intel drop. Today's primarily is over at the DFK front and a little bit over at the Maxima region. So we're gonna start off with Pishan. Just go through the list of everything that will be we will be going through. Pishan, Rozdolevka, Pentelemenivka, Vodizenka, Luzovatske, Vovshev, Novoselivka, Persia, Maximilianivka, and Mikel SK. So these are the various frontline changes we will be covering. So over at Pishan, there is some updates based on the Ukrainian mapping. Ukrainians have acknowledged the Russians capturing of the northern part of Pishan. So the Russian forces have confirmed to have captured the northern part. And so we are only leaving just a little bit over here. That is still not confirmed. Maybe a little bit over in the north. Maybe some small little chapels and whatnot. So just a little bit more. Oh, of course, over here at the southern tentacle as well. So these are the various few positions that are still awaiting for confirmation that the Russians have captured. Then we can declare Pershane captured. But tentatively we don't have that yet. And based on reporting wise, Ukrainian Defense Ministry has already started to talk about Kolesnivkivka as well as Hulushkivka or Glushkivka. So basically already mentioning about the Russians already pushing for these two settlements. So it's pretty much more or less there. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry didn't really talk much about Pishan anymore. As you can see, it's only the Russian Defense Ministry talking about it. So yeah, this entire narrative that Pishan has been captured by the Russian forces most likely is accurate because the Ukrainian Defense Ministry did not continue to talk about it. The next frontline change after Pishan is over at Rozdolevka, over at the Sivers front. At the Sivers front, there is a new geolocation northeast of Rozdolevka of Russian forces in the tree line, confirming that the Russians' mapping has been accurate so far, invalidating part of the Ukrainian claims. So you can see this overlapping mapping. For those that are new to this channel, there's two maps on this mapping. DPS mapping have two maps. Blue is the Ukrainian mapping, red or pink is the Russian mapping. So there's two different mappings. So the Ukrainian mapping is now getting invalidated in this case, in case you are confused. So that's what it is, but Russian mapping don't change because Russians has already claimed to have captured this area here. So we move on after Rozdolevka, we go into the New York front. So at the New York, there is some slight advancement over in this southwest of New York towards Pentemelenivka. Russian forces have captured this tree line around here. This is based on Ukrainian mapping, but they are very sneaky because when they map it in this way, they could have just drawn it this way, but they prefer to leave this area as gray zone, to minimize the Russian capture. So this, but actually, it's just the entire thing. There's no one will stay in the open field. So this is what it is. But to suggest that there might be Ukrainians over here as a gray zone, also, yeah, a bit of a stretch, a little bit. But we shall see. We shall see how this develop. If Ukrainians want to stay here, redrawal might be a little bit of a challenge, because Russian forces could just attack, through Urivka, and this force will be encircled. And talking about encirclement, there is some news about Ukrainian forces have two battalions getting encircled in the New York front. Yeah, but don't worry, not important at all, because yeah, no one know what does two battalion actually means, because who knows, the two battalions has already been graded down to just two companies or two squads. Yeah, it's just in name, which is why I don't really cover units, because most units are undermanned. We move on from Pentelemenivka to Vodizenka. So over at the FK front, we have some updates. These are all Russian claims. These are not corroborated. So in the Vodizenka region, Russian forces seems to have expanded their control. As I mentioned before, they need to do this before they can attack Vodizenka. So this is the situation where the Russian forces expanded control from the Novo-Alexandrivka region and expanding control. They will continue to attack northward and westward before they actually will tackle Vodizenka itself. Vodizenka itself is going. You don't really want to go head on. That's a bit dangerous. So over in the south of this position, Russian forces captured a little bit of the tree line in the southeast of Luzovatsky. This is the salient which I don't think the Ukrainians are able to hold. I believe they will retreat or they have already retreated. But the Russians is not going to just storm in because there might be booby traps, mines, and whatnot. So they will take their time to clear up this place. And however, they didn't really take their time. Over in the Voschev Progress region, Russian forces have taken all the grounds, the entire salient northwest of Yekhanivka or southeast of Progress. So they have made further advancement around this area here. So the advance here is actually slow. No, this is after a few days of updates. So we will continue to monitor and see how this develop over at this area. After Progress or Voshev, the next front line change is south of this position over at Novoselivka, Persia. Do note that everything here, I think, is almost everything is Russian claims. These are all not corroborated or mapping by the Ukrainian side. So over at the Novoselivka, Persia, based on Russian claims, the Russian forces have taken the entire or almost the entirety of the western part of Novoselivka, Persia. So, or at least the northern half. So from this area here, this is actually what I already mentioned. The Russians will attack in this direction down. So the next target will be this area. They will actually to block off any potential withdrawal lines, and they will hold a defense line in this area here. The Russians will hold a defense line around here, so to prevent the Ukrainian counterattack. So yeah, this will be a continuation. Novoselivka, Persia is a foregone conclusion. It's just a matter of time for the Russians to take this position. And then the next frontline change is over at Maxima. So in surprise, not surprise situation over at the Georgievka region. This entire region here, even most of Georgievka in the Ukrainian mapping is gray zone. However, or Deep State US mapping is gray zone. But as you can see, the latest geolocation is not true. Russian forces have penetrated into the entire western part of eastern part of Maxima, a continuation of where they have previously located. They have been geolocated. The Russian forces continue to advance on Maxima. So this is just it is not a surprise if you are based on the Russian mapping, but for the Ukrainian mapping, this would be a pretty big surprise that the Russians have continued to advance and expand the so-called gray zone over this area here. So with this advance, around a third of Maxima might be under Russian control. Might be. So Ukrainian forces still have most of it, but it's not looking good with the Russians able to continue to push in this way. But we shall continue to wait and see how this develops. And the last frontline change is over at Mikel SK. So in the Mikel SK, Voleda, Vodian region, Russian forces have expanded their control a little bit. This is based on the Ukrainian mapping. Russian forces advance a little bit over on this northeastern part of Mikel SK. So otherwise, that's all for the frontline changes. It's significant, but not as significant as the day before because the New York front is just massive update. So if you have missed it, you can check it out here. All the situation report as well, both is here. Check it out, and I'll see you guys in the next update.